everyone, it's Kellen Brauer here with RacerX, back again with another race examination video this week. No Tom Jett footage, he was not on the floor in Oakland, but that's all right. We got plenty of to talk about from this main event, regardless of which. We're going to start off with Chase Sexton going down from the race lead. Another unfortunate crash for Sexton while leading this one. Looked like he had the win just about sewed up, but crashed it away. And he did kind of highlight what happened in the post-race press conference, but essentially what it is, he's going to triple single into this corner, and he's going to go a little bit long, not perfectly downside that triple. You can see the front tire lands all the way in the transition, and the face of this next jump coming up after it has braking bumps all the way up it because they're landing and getting hard on the brakes to roll that single. So you can see the front wheel kind of jabs into a couple braking bumps. He's already on the front and rear brake trying to slow down for the corner, and it's like a slide out coupled with a rear brake slide because he's on the rear brake going up the face of the next jump. So it's just a small mistake. It literally could have caught anybody else out, but for Sexton, just a tiny bit too long right there, and he goes down. Now, a little bit later on, he's going to get passed by Cooper Webb for second after he gets up and Webb catches and passes him here. But I wanted to highlight Webb going for this quad in this rhythm section because Webb actually said he did it once earlier in the day, knew he could do it, and then sized it up again in the main event for the parade lap. So he did it on the parade lap just to know, yeah, I can quad in right there, and he did it basically every lap of the main event. It was pretty remarkable because he's making up some good time there to do that line, and just a cool little tidbit right there. Now, Eli Tomac on the last lap of the race almost throws this thing away when he almost goes down coming out of the first turn, and this is a bit of an interesting one. So coming into this corner, what's going to happen is at some point right about here-ish, he's going to dab his foot. I think going right up this jump right there, he dabs the foot. So it ends up with the body positioning behind, like he's over the front of the bike a little bit. And then the front tire lands in this little hole, but you can see his body positioning is kind of arced forward. So the second he lands, the tire comes almost to a stop and his body keeps going, which causes the jolt, forward on the bike. The momentum goes to the right. I think he did a great job to exit stage right of the track and not try to stay on the track and go through the tough blocks right there, because he probably would have went down in the tough blocks if he tried to stay on. But he was able to stay up and stay in the lead. And fortunately, it was just enough because Webb really did get this thing pretty close at the end. He actually got the two whoop sections a little bit better than Eli as well. And in the end, it's only about a half second over the flag, but it was really close at the end there. And Tomac survives to win his fourth main event of the year. Remarkable season thus far that Eli's been putting together. Extends his championship lead. You can tell Webb was dejected. Had he started the charge a little bit sooner, he may have gotten Eli, but he just didn't get there in the end. I want to remind everybody that this video is presented by OnX Off-Road. Nowhere to go with the #1 off-road GPS app. Access 500,000 plus miles of trails and roads, open dates, and public lands. Download the OnX Off-Road app today. Moving on to the 250 class, I want to start off with the start of the main event, and they have some great footage right here of Lawrence and McAdoo going to the first turn, getting kind of cornered off by Hampshire. But I kind of wanted to highlight, first of all, two different start techniques here with Lawrence and McAdoo. First of all, Lawrence, one finger on the clutch versus McAdoo with two, but watch their elbows specifically on the start right here. And like Lawrence only goes like halfway down, but he uses more of his wrist with throttle control, whereas McAdoo kind of chicken wings down and like actually uses his arm more for throttle control. Very interesting, but obviously they both work out almost the same. They're going to the corner side by side, and then it becomes an out brake fest of who can get to that inside line first, but Hampshire just swoops around them both. Actually, I think hooks a couple of those ruts, which helps him kind of arc the corner and still grab the whole shot in the early lead. But I love watching those little like kind of technique things on the start because those guys have many different ways to do the exact same thing basically. But a little bit later on, Hampshire is going to crash away the lead, and the only thing I want to talk about with this is he said he hit a rock, and he also said he was okay with not leading the race because he didn't feel like he had the full 15 in him after recovering from his crash at A2. So a little bit of an interesting storyline right there. Now let's talk about Pierce Brown versus Cameron McAdoo. Brown going to come in past McAdoo for third late in the main event right here. Defends the inside going into the whoops, but then Brown's going to go 2, 3, and then a little bit long on this next 3, so he has to double out. And then McAdoo triples into the corner, goes up the inside. This runs him a little bit high and puts him on the ground. Now some people said, a little bit too much by McAdoo. I mean, from this angle, of course, he goes from basically far left of the track to far right, but he's also got to hit the berm to hit the Dragons back in the next section. You could say, yeah, he ran him maybe a little bit too high up the berm. You even gave him a little bit of a look back and takes his front wheel down. The thing about it, though, is McAdoo almost went down as well. Like, this would have looked horrible had he crashed as well because he knifes the front end, has to barely collect himself to stay upright right there, and obviously Brown went down. And then a little bit later on, Brown also tucks the front end right there, and I thought this was interesting that his mechanic here on the right side of the screen is pointing at his head, like almost saying, like, dude, use your head or whatever. But it's the last lap of the race, so Brown just has to get up here and finish the race. He did lose a position to Levi Kitchen, but maintained 5th in the end. But interesting little dynamic between the rider and the mechanic right there that I felt like I should point out. And then Jett Lawrence goes on to win the main event again. His third win from 4 races this year. Ken Roxon giving a little bit of love after the race. It's kind of cool to see. And Jett Lawrence has been on a roll here of late. But of course, now we have a break coming up in the 250 West as we head back to the East Coast this week in Arlington.